ninth meeting of the Kwaai organization. Pat yourselves on the back for being consistent and tenacious and sticking to it. Thanks so much. Today we've got a fantastic guest speaker. I've known Scott for over a decade. I'm going to give you a brief update. But first, why don't I move over to Myra? Myra, you're going to MC the call today on our new Zoom platform.
Yeah, I'm super excited. So we'll start, Reza, with your.
Why don't you put up the agenda slide and then we'll
Sure. Let me do that.
show everyone what we've got going.
The updated one.
So exciting to see everyone coming in.
Right? Find their way. All right, let's share. Good.
That's great. So I'm going to give you a quick update of what went on since we last spoke in the last week. And then we'll move straight over to our guest speaker, Scott Glosserman. I was at a conference with Ruth. In fact, I tagged along. This was like the husbands. I'm going to just share a few slides here. It was a kind of a tag along. It was an education conference, and it was in the Bay Area. It was in Cupertino at the De Anza College. It was the Futures Summit 2024. And since the emphasis for our beta program is in education, we attended. It's a community college gathering, really powerful. Oh gosh, awful pictures here. There's the main lady. Okay. We had some good talks. I want to get to the following day. So this was the networking event. Oh, so you might recall Anu. Anu was the organizer of the conference, and she's also attended one of our beta meetings. And we're in discussion of getting the beta to De Anza College. Okay, so this is Lee Lambert. He's the chancellor of De Anza College. And he introduced Sonia Christian. Sonia Christian is the president of the California Community Colleges. So that's she basically oversees, I think, 2 million students. So this is a good person to be in touch with. Kwaai is on both of their radars. I made a nuisance of myself, went and introduced myself to each of them, and got Kwaai onto their radar. They're guest speakers, very, very influential people in the area of AI for good. This is Safia Noble. Look her up. This is Beth Rudden. Also look her up in the sort of AI for good sector. This is Jennifer Chairs. Also very influential, vocal people. It was really fantastic to be at a conference where you don't have the talking head infomercials of the sponsors. There's a little bit of it, but mostly really important speakers. The reason I'm going on about this is that this is an emphasis for our beta. We're tactically deploying the personal AI in academia as a closed beta because it's a contained environment. We're not ready yet to unleash it to the public, and it'll stay in beta until we've got sufficient feedback and refined it. I'll tell you more about that later on. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'd like to introduce you our guest speaker. And Myra, if you that's it. If you get that screen back up, there we go. Okay, Scott Glosserman. Scott Glosserman, I've known for over a decade. Scott runs the Gather platform. Gather is a movement for democratizing audiences. When I started working with him a while back, actually, maybe Myra, if you just skip 2 slides into it. So that's this, Scott. I wonder if you recall these pictures. Okay, this was formative. The very first thing that we used the platform for was to gather theater audiences cinema theater audiences for a screening of a movie, and the movie was called Girl Rising. The movie's still in distribution. Go find it. It's an important movie in the space. But the challenge was to get an audience of 1 million viewers. Well, this is the day when we reached 100,000 viewers. I took a screenshot of the crowds that we'd crowdsourced. Scott's going to tell you more about the Gather platform, but how it has evolved over the decade since I've worked with him. So Scott, over to you. I think you've got sharing privileges.
Wow, that's really cool. Hold on, I have to do one thing. If I don't hide self view, then this whole thing goes to shit. So hold on one second. Okay, there we go. Okay. Now I'm out of the way. So yes, Riza and I, we go way back, and boy, this is such an amazing homecoming. I got to catch up with him recently and learn about this community and what y'all have been up to, and I'm very, very honored and humbled to be a part of it, hopefully going forward. So I'll give you I'll try to be as brief as I can to catch you up to where we are today. But I was making films in the between say 99 and 2012. And I was bouncing back and forth from feature films to documentaries, loved nonfiction. And during the writer's strike, when I was writing a script for Paramount in 2008, we had to put pencils down. And so I got involved in a documentary at the time that had access to Jimmy Wales and Wikipedia. And this was going to be the official Wikipedia history of Wikipedia. Now around 2008, this is, if we canonize the sum of human knowledge and make it available for free, I mean, if history is written by the winners, have the people finally won? Or is Wikipedia just a cabal of white dudes, editing for everyone? And what are the implications for making all this knowledge available? So in 2008, this was really it parallels what's happening with AI today and the AI usage in schools, and so this was a very, very interesting look into crowdsourcing knowledge. And because Kiva and Kickstarter were all happening around 2009, 2010, and we were all doing Yelp and Urban Spoon reviews, I was thinking to myself, there are so many issues with movie distribution. And the fact that I had a horror film, I cut my teeth in horror, and we could get at all these people online to whom horror was really interesting, but just throwing that movie out in DC and New York and LA for a week and hoping that word of mouth caught on, and that the theaters were anywhere near the people online, the 70 million impressions that we got online, it was a misalignment. We have a decentralized audience, and top-down distribution might create some symbolic prestige. It might buy a perception of value, but it wasn't going to drive revenue. And certainly as I got into cause impact documentaries, it wasn't going to drive engagement, re-engagement, and impact. And so what I realized from working on the Wikipedia doc was, well, maybe I could somehow crowdsource theatrical audiences. I mean, what if I could go out and effectively stand up an Eventbrite for film screening? So I could build the tech for ticketing and event creation, event management. But then if I went out and I optioned all the screens in the United States, I negotiated economics for Monday through Thursday, when there's 99% excess capacity in movie theaters. And this was 2011. I mean, 93% excess capacity Monday through Sunday, Monday through Thursday, 99%. So I went out to Regal and Cinemark and AMC and all of the art houses and basically said, look, give me a price for Monday to Wednesday or Monday to Thursday. If I give you 12 or 15 business days heads up, what would you charge me for screen number 9 in Waltham, Massachusetts? And they might say $500. So in that way, I had all of my pricing. And so I was able to then acquire films that otherwise wouldn't have had a prayer of theatrical distribution. And we were able to then create bottom-up democratized distribution, because we could go out kind of like a Kickstarter and say, premiere this film in your town. So maybe we'd put it in New York and LA and create that symbolic prestige, which is really important to the film's validation and credibility. But really what we'd do is we'd field demand. We'd allow people to premiere it in their town. I want to screen it in the AMC Promenade 14 in Pueblo, Colorado. And if I just get 80 people to pre-authorize their credit card through ticket reservations by X date, by this cutoff date, then the screening is going to happen. And if not enough people pre-authorize the credit card, then the screening doesn't happen, but we will not have laid out any cost or risk. And we call that theatrical on demand. And Reza was there for Girl Rising once we kind of went to market. That was our first film, and it was the 4th highest grossing documentary of 2013, right between Searching for Sugar Man and 20 Feet from Stardom. Probably a film you never heard of, but we proved concept. We proved that if we can get at people online and get them to pull the content, and get them to be the local promoters, then it would work. And so we thought we had something really special, and of course I think we did. But the entire economics of film distribution changed, as I'm sure I don't have to tell you. The golden age of documentaries was upon us because the streamers entered the space and changed the economics. And I'll give you just a brief reference point. So if you were at a film festival like a Sundance in 2010, let's say, and you were Fox Searchlight looking to acquire an independent film that you wanted to put out in movie theaters, you might pay a handsome penny for that. But you also had to incur, say, $20–30 million of marketing money to get a film like Little Miss Sunshine out into theaters across the country. So skip to 2015-16. A Netflix could come in and pay twice as much as Fox Searchlight because they didn't have the marketing bogey to overcome, because they just dropped it to all of their users. So even though Little Miss Sunshine broke the record for the acquisition in, say, 2012 of, say, $12 million, by 2016, Netflix was paying $20 million to acquire independent films. They were pricing Sony Pictures Classics and Fox Searchlight out of the market. And they were acquiring these films because even though they were paying crazy amounts of money, like $20 million for an independent film at a Sundance, they didn't have another $20–30 million to pay in marketing. And so this upended the economics of independent film and certainly documentary film. Not only did you have the global streamers, but you had CNN Films and Discovery and Nat Geo all entering the marketplace as buyers. So if you were a filmmaker between 2012 and 2021, pretty much, you were selling your content, you were making content. It was a real golden age of documentary. And that all came to a screaming halt during COVID. But so we struggled because we had this great model, we had this terrific engine, but no one was really using it. And fortunately, we had enough working capital to kind of stumble our way through. Instead of being a movie distributor and acquiring film rights, we kind of became a tech company to facilitate other distributors' sub-distribution rights because we didn't have the money to compete to acquire those films. And then we get to COVID, and what happened during COVID was we got a call from will.i.am's representatives. will.i.am and Katie Couric had produced a film called Parkland Rising. This was about the Parkland school shooting. And here was a guy who had 50 million Facebook followers, but all the theaters were closed down, and he couldn't figure out how to put the movie out online because despite the fact that he had all these followers, Facebook Live doesn't have a transactional ticketing paywall. And so he needed a way, and he was a proxy for all of these films during COVID, they needed a way to exhibit a live synchronized screening that began with an introduction and ended with a live Q&A that forced a page load refresh for anyone watching around the world, but it was all behind a transactional ticketing paywall. And nobody offered that at the time. And so the film industry, which is not a tech business, we were kind of the only tech company in film distribution. And so while most of the film industry leveraged what's called transactional VOD or TVOD, which is different than than streaming, SVOD. Subscription VOD is Netflix. Transactional VOD is just paying $3.99. Change, but it's also a way to highlight the subject matter experts involved in the film. And so let me open this up on an incognito window. So because I'm in my own account. So if you look at this film, you'll see that Oliver Stone was able to get anybody he wanted to featured in his film. So in this film, he got 25 nuclear policy experts. And all of these nuclear policy experts, this is the long tail of the knowledge economy, of the expert economy. These are folks, for the most part, who don't have talent representation. So there is a segue here to AI. And what we offer talent, subject matter experts who don't have or have but aren't happy with their human talent representatives. Talent representation is a walled garden approach to representing 70 or to 80,000 people in the world have talent representation. And that represents a $15–16 billion industry. But there are, just on LinkedIn alone, subject matter experts, there are 10 million subject matter experts. And subject matter experts don't typically have representation. And if any of you have ever been asked, who don't have representation, to be on someone's podcast or to go speak at some airport, Hilton somewhere, and you're having to do the negotiation for yourself, we as artists know that there's a reason why we have talent agents, because we don't want to negotiate for ourselves. It's icky, it's uncomfortable. We usually lowball ourselves because we're trying to be nice, because we really want to get to the artistry part of it and the creative part. And so where Gather can step in is not only can Gather allow people to feel demand, film booking demand, but they also can allow people to feel demand for their talent. So where we expanded post-COVID is into this Airbnb-like feature to feel demand for screenings of your film, or screenings of your film as well as your post-film Q&A, panel discussion, so a personal appearance for the director, or the subject matter experts. And then beyond that, where we've partnered with supply aggregators who already have relationships and trust with their community. This is Roku, for instance, one of the foremost educational distributors of documentaries. We stood up for Roku Voices. So all of their documentaries have these wonderful award-winning filmmakers, and we've been able to build effectively a marketplace where we're the engine that powers Roku Voices. So if you want to click on one of these people, you'll see that Gather is up in the left-hand corner. You can make a booking request of Paul. This would be for a personal appearance. For Doc NYC, we've done 1v1 consultations. And so we're trying to always find new revenue streams for documentary and independent film. In this case, we've expanded to the subject matters themselves. The last thing I'll say is that beyond talent booking and film booking for screenings, we've also added a transactional VOD component. And so the array of distribution modalities that we provide in this vertical CRM, this vertical software as a service or storytelling as a service, is unparalleled. But what it allows people to do is we're literally staking a flag in the ground. We are carving out something brand new that we call direct to audience. It's a parallel to D2C, it's direct to consumer, but for storytellers, this is a direct to audience window that you can exploit prior to going to some global streamer or home video. It's when you can have a direct relationship with your audience, and you can leverage theatrical and theatrical on demand, and then direct to audience transactional VOD, and what we have partner VOD, which I can get into later. This allows you much more data, much more reach, better economics, and control over your IP. And that's really what our mission has been. And we're finally starting to find our stride. That was probably way too much. And there's so much more, but I'm going to stop there. And you can tell me kind of where you want me to go from here.
Sure, Scott, that was fantastic. And I'm just amazed at how the Gather platform has evolved from just being focused on theatrical audiences now to becoming the platform for any artist talent. So this is great. Look, I think we should spend some time with Q&A. If there are any questions, you know how to put your hand up, and we can take one or two. What do you think, Mara?
Put his hand up.
Ted.
Yes.
Ted, go ahead. You can unmute and
There we go. Quick question, Scott. That was fantastic. You know, you bring the point. A lot of us consult for people. A lot of us advise people, and we suck for advising ourselves. So having an outlet to, I always under negotiate for myself and over negotiate for everybody that I consult for. What is the difference the similarity or difference between what you were doing with film and what Tug was doing?
Oh man, not much. Although, you know how there was Deep Impact and Armageddon at the same time? That sometimes just two ideas happen at the same time. Well, we launched in August of 2011, and Tug launched at South by in March of 2012. And they did something very similar. I guess the generic term would be called critical mass ticketing. And they took a very different approach. And I'm happy to, over a bottle of wine, talk to you all about the differences. But to keep it 100,000 feet, their approach was different than ours. And Tug is regrettably not around any longer. And that's, yeah, I guess I should leave it at that.
It sounded very similar, and they both really democratized access to getting your film distributed. So I thought it's really
That's
great.
Exactly right. And, I mean, both of us realized late in the game is that the theatrical on demand, that critical mass ticketing was more like a feature and not a business. And so it is now today. I actually attached this All About Gather 2-pager at the top of the chat. That is just sort of one of myriad features or solutions that we provide now.
Yeah, I mean, the attraction I had for it at the time was it got people who wanted to get their film considered for some award level that it had theatrical distribution by getting it into ArcLight for 2 nighs.
That was one way to leverage it, for sure.
Yeah.
A bit cynical, but clever as well.
Cool. Look, if there are no more questions, we can move to the main agenda. Scott, I want to thank you so much.
Sure.
Big stick around and hear what else is going on in the Gather group. The Kwaai group.
I'd love to. I'm just going to mute myself. The last thing I'll just say in closing, the reason why there's a thread here is you do have this long tail of talent and subject matter experts, and so where we are incorporating or endeavor to incorporate AI is you want someone to negotiate for you on your behalf. We have all of this substantive data now. And this is effectively just when you measure it by just the number of users and talent on the platform, this has an opportunity to become the largest talent agency on earth, just by way of people using it and their relationship with their communities and their ability to field their booking demand. So with all of that data, adding AI to help those negotiations and several other things is something really, really exciting. That's why I'm really excited to be part of the community. So
thanks so much, Scott. Scott, look, we're going to
Reza, before you jump, Scott, we met through my brother Michael Johns a good while ago, 10, 15 years ago, and I'm quite mind blown that we're crossing paths again here now. But I'll take this offline. I've done a bunch of work on like digital human interviewers and acquired a startup called Speakeasy that did like live events, like kind of Zoom for Taylor Swift concerts kind of thing. But yeah, look, it sounds like there's a lot of crossover there between what we're working on and kind of being able to have like a talking head doing kind of self-representation, if you like. So we should definitely follow up. I guess I can still reach you on this. I hope I can still reach you.
Please send me your email address. I have lost touch with your parents and with you, and you've blown my mind right now.
Yeah, same.
I didn't know that we all had that connection. I'm so thrilled.
Wow.
Yeah. You still on the number ending 54? Is that probably the best way?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, I'll send you a note.
Thanks.
Well, fantastic. Myra, get us back on the schedule.
All right. Let's see. Are you seeing my screen?
Yeah, you need to go one slide up.
Yeah. So I think now, Reza, if we wanted to go through work group updates.
Let's go. Yeah.
So I think first up, we have the Pi assistant.
Yeah, and they've made fantastic strides. So we'd love to hear from Balaji and Cyan about the release of software that they put in place. I saw the note from Cyan. We're ready to start internal testing. So who's on the call to give us a report?
Hey Reza, this is Balaji. Yeah, this is a great outcome this week. We have version 0.1, I would say. It's just early release, and it's coming out with some of the features we had on the beta for others to download, install, and experiment with it and give us feedback. If Cyan is on the call, Cyan, would you like to add some thoughts on that?
Sure. So what we pushed so far is the creation of a persona, being able to chat with your persona, creating your assistant, having the persona that you specified answering the questions that you're asking to your assistant. It is still a little bit too technical. It doesn't have an installer yet. But yeah, I hope you guys like it and give us some feedback and can start playing with it.
Fantastic. Any chance of an image of what you've got? That would be nice.
Yeah.
Have anything right now, but I have a demo video on the README that everybody can see on the repository.
Fantastic. Okay, if you can post a link to that in Slack as well, that would be really useful. Separately, I've asked iBridge if they can stand up a server so that we can install. They're going to do that on the 19th. So next week sometime it'll be available. And so as well as everyone installing locally if they can, that'd be great. But iBridge are going to set up a server so that we can kick the tires of it running on an instance in the data center in Sacramento. Okay, Cyan, thanks so much. And I want to thank the entire team, the Arcus team, for working diligently on this. Thanks, Balaji, for your leadership. And thanks, Cyan, for, gosh, you know, we make promises to ourselves. We're not, you know, yes, we make promises elsewhere, but we're a volunteer organization. And the fact that these promises we actually keep and stick to them is tremendous. And yes, so applause to all of you, but pat yourselves on the back for being diligent and showing integrity. Thanks so much. Sam, let's hear from what's going on the Pi OS, on the operating system level.
Yeah, so we've had a busy week on this side as well. I was down. I met in person with AZ and Carsten down in California, which was great. We did a all-day hackathon on Saturday where we started making inroads into integrating AWS. Bearing in mind that not everybody's going to run their things locally, so you can you'll be able to start up an inference on Bedrock and so on, or OpenAI on Azure, or OpenAI directly. We've made some good progress on that front in terms of working out the architecture for it using something like OpenRouter, and we've started with Patricia digging into what that looks like. So you have one interface that looks like OpenAI on the OS. And behind it, you can have a dozen or hundreds, even different backends that could be internal or external. So that's great as well. I have incorporated a PR by Patricia for doing the sharing. So creating secure links to share assistants and conversations and that kind of thing. Not a super significant PR, but what is super significant is that we're now getting the PRs coming through and starting to commit them. I've also had a good conversation with her yesterday, spent quite some time looking at how we can kind of share the load of incorporating those PRs, which is good. Also went through the PR for adding authentication using passkeys from Robert, and have given some feedback there on some things we need to tweak, like certificate generation and this kind of stuff. But then when we get into the assistant side, there's now a backlog of PRs that make quite significant changes to the OS in ways that should probably be more on the app side of the fence than in the OS. So I need to start to work with Patricia in particular, but work out what stays inside and what we kind of push out to the apps. But in general, yeah, we're making some good progress, and then I'm even finding time to do my quantum computing and machine learning for trading assignments. I think that's about it. Branding, of course. We've got the new brand in place, so that's good. I think that's probably all you need to know for now.
Sam, I've got some questions for you. So you've had a chance to play with Bedrock, and Bedrock offers the same sort of economics as your multi-tenant platform. I had in my mind that we needed to reduce the cost of running a personal AI on AWS 1,000-fold, and you've achieved that, I think. You know, it costs to run the POC that's running on our website is a $2,000 a month AWS bill. That's it. And so what you've innovated with the PyOS is you can have 1,000 bots there, when requests come in, you'd be rapidly switching between them in milliseconds. So that's a fantastic innovation. Now you've had a chance to play with Bedrock, where they charge you per token. Can you compare and contrast what do you think of the advantages are between the different approaches?
Well, look, I mean, the work I've been doing with quantum is an interesting analogy, because you wouldn't think of having a quantum computer at home, right? And similarly, you know, I mean, look, I've got a new MacBook. It was like $3,000. To get a MacBook that can run like a 70 billion parameter model without quantizing it to death, you need like 128 gig, which gives you 96 gig of RAM to use for your model, which costs you $7,000 US, north of $10,000 in, you know, Canadian, Australian dollars and stuff. So that's a lot of money. And it's sitting there 99.999% of the time doing nothing. So really, to make this affordable and accessible, you need to slice it up and you need to go multi-tenant. When you're not on IBM's quantum computer, for example, there is simulators that you can use to do some work with quantum and use Qiskit and so on with simulator. And that is analogous to kind of running it locally with a highly quantized, you know, smaller model and getting slower token speeds. So you can still do it. And in some cases, like, you know, the iPhones now run 3 billion parameter models. When they can't, they ship it off to Apple to run on their private compute cloud. And then when they can't do that, they ship it off to OpenAI. So it's kind of like the storage hierarchy, the storage pyramid, going from kind of RAM through disk down to tape. You choose the right tool for the job. And a lot of the time, in fact, most of the time for our users, it's going to be somebody else's computer.
Okay, so thanks so much for that. And you know, just that simple data point, the fact that what Sam has done with PyOS is reduce the cost by a factor of 1,000, I think is something worth writing home about. And it's a stepping stone to democratizing AI. This is the right direction. And it also, in order to actually use it, so I'm gonna share my screen and then segue over to what we're doing on the beta program. I'm gonna share with you what we chose to do is use that multi-tenant solution in education. So what we're doing is we're allowing colleges to host the back end, a server on which multiple professors can install virtual teacher's assistant. So here's the proof of concept running of 3 instances of personal AI. Here is a help desk on the left-hand side. It's a help desk for the administrator. So that would be loaded up with all the policy documents, all of the student manuals, the conduct manuals, policies and procedures, codes of conduct, and so on. The middle one is for a celebrity author at a college, and that we loaded up with all their textbooks. And the rightmost one is for every professor to get a superpower, to get a 10x improvement in efficiency by having a virtual teacher's assistant, a student-facing experience where students can query the course content without having to email the professor. Okay, so this is in order to do this, it would have cost $2,000 per professor. Now we've got it down where it's going to be $2,000. Okay, it'll be a server with a GPU, as Sam had described, but now that is a multi-tenant server, and it can the load. You'd only need to add more servers if there's increased student load. It could probably handle about 100 concurrent students at any one time. Okay, so that's great. So we put this out a couple of months ago, apply to join the beta program, and we've got some responses. We anticipate 30 or so people. I'm not going to reveal all of the members here, the people who've joined up, but here's the distribution of the signups. We've already got, you can see we're up to 29 here. Let me just hide that away. But here's the distribution of what they want. They want to explore efficiencies. They want to enhance student learning, provide faculty with tools. Many of them just want to kick the tires on AI, provide faculty and staff a tool to try AI. Many universities and colleges are coming out of that knee-jerk reaction of, AI is bad, AI is a tool by which students are going to cheat. That was the initial reaction a year ago. Now the more forward-thinking colleges are seeing, oh, wow, we can actually use AI to solve some of the problems, this drop in student advancement that has actually occurred since the pandemic. And also there's kind of a double whammy. It was the pandemic that moved instruction online, and it's not snapped back after the pandemic. And then the economic downturn, that means that full-time study is a luxury that very few students can afford. And so many students are holding down a full-time job. And they are thankful that the courses are asynchronous. They can consume the courses asynchronously, because that's, at the end of the day, after they've had their dinner, that's what they're spending their time doing in order to get their education. And then when they struggle through the content, what do? They email the professors at 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night for an essay that's due at midnight. Now, the professors have a superpower. They've got the virtual teacher's assistant that they can use to, and let me see if I can quickly switch the screen. They've got the virtual teacher's assistant that they can, and hopefully you're seeing that. And we're not going to play with it, but this will be now running, and the equivalent one at EDU. This will be now available to every professor in 3 clicks. Click number 1. What does it look like? Okay, this it needn't look like this. In fact, Bruce Schneier at Harvard said, "I want my bot, but I don't want it to have a face. AI is not your friend; it's a tool." Okay, so the second thing is, what does it sound like? So that's the voice, because this is a talking, listening bot. The third and most important thing is, what is the knowledge base that this is that this is informed by? It's not the general knowledge of ChatGPT. Frankly, Scarlett, that knowledge is not something that we should be using to teach students. The knowledge should come from the professors, from the instructors. They need to curate that knowledge base. So what we've done at Kwaai is we've split apart the LLM, and we use an SLM, a small language model, Llama 3. And the knowledge base, rather than being the knowledge that's been vacuumed from the internet, from Reddit and Twitter, is now the knowledge that the instructor brings. And they curate it through the admin page. So I'm showing you what exists in the POC at the moment, but the professor has an admin page, and they can log in. And once they log in, they can then drag and drop files from their course curriculum material, and that is how they curate the knowledge base. Really simple. It's not the onerous retraining of a large language model that only few deep-pocketed companies can do. Now it's going to be accessible to everyone. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing there. And thanks so much again to Sam and to the OS team, that all the people that are contributing to the code. I got grilled quite significantly at the conference, where they said, "Well, it's an open source platform. How do you maintain its security?" So I said, well, okay, look, Linux is an open source platform, and how do we maintain the security of that? In fact, one way in which we maintain the security, and Linus was asked this himself, Linus Torvalds, he says, well, it's kind of a benevolent dictatorship that he runs. He said, every single line of code that goes into the Linux kernel goes past my eyes. I look at it, every single line. And so we've got our own Linus Torvalds. His name's Sam Johnston. And thanks so much, Sam, because we're relying on you for every line of code that goes into the OS to go past your scrutiny. And you've been very stringent to make sure that there are signing ceremonies where you sign on board, where you get on board new contributors to the code base, and all the code has got a provenance of, there's an audit trail to say who touched what line of code. And thank you very much for instilling that discipline into the code base. That's super important. And then I want to thank the whole Arcus Nexus team for their continued support in getting the Pi Assistant to where it is. I'm going to stop the rant now. Myra, why don't you get us back on schedule? And
well, thank you, Reza, and Sam and everyone else. That was really interesting and good to look at, especially with all the improvements that were made and the good stuff that's happening behind the scenes. So I think we can do some member voices. We have a pretty good size audience. I'd love to hear from some of our new members. What made you join? Tell us a little bit about yourself, why you're here. Just go ahead and raise your hands, or I will ask Reza to pick on you.
I'll pick on you if you don't raise your hand. How do you raise your hand on this platform?
With the React.
With the React button. Okay.
Right?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's how you do it. With the React, you can. Oh, there's the raise hand. I see. Ruth, you've raised your hand. You're a newcomer.
Welcome.
No, I'm just showing you how to do it.
That's good. Okay, well, look, I am going to pick on a few people. I got to meet AZ for the first time in person. Sam, I'm really sorry I couldn't meet you. We thought we were going to be occupied in Cupertino for the whole of Monday and Tuesday. And then we got back to the hotel after the first night, and I messaged AZ, and at 8 o'clock at night, he came to meet us at the hotel. AZ, why don't you just tell us what have you been doing lately at Kwaai?
I've been involved with the product team. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Reza, I was one of the people Reza reached out to initially with before Kwaai was founded. So even though it took me a while to get involved, I consider myself a founding member, and I wear that with a badge of honor. So one of the things that Reza talked about that we haven't yet touched on, I want to bring that NFT concept. But I found the need for more product ownership, more product streamlining. We have the need for having new people who are coming in to have a direct set of issues that they can pick up on. So we are looking at myself and the product team, Greg and Deep. We are looking into the possibility of implementing either a tool like WeCan or some other tool that gives us a bit more flexibility than the current structure of the Git repo, which requires approvals. And we're working to solve that issue as well. So product is where we found I could make the biggest difference. And now we're separating product into project management and product management. I want to mention something Reza was talking about, which is that we can have something like a unique NFT per user. If you come in and volunteer for a year, you get an NFT. And then I had a concept of utilizing UPC codes in certain parts of that NFT to make it unique for you, for what you've done. So we have an idea that's brewing, which would give people a badge that they could wear as a badge of honor and have it on their LinkedIn profile, and it would simultaneously help Kwaai further its message. So so I'm a believer in the purpose of Kwaai. I am, I'm passionate about it, and I am super excited to be part of this amazing group of people doing amazing work.
AZ, I want to. We were spitballing the NFT idea about that's the way that people could get credits for the things they do, and these are credits that are non-fungible by definition. It's yours to own. You put a badge on it. It could even apply to pull requests. It could even apply to contributions to the code. And so instead of the credits that would roll, in the about page of an app, there should be NFTs attached to it. And Cam, you've got your hand raised.
And before Cam goes, I want to say one last thing. A month ago, I collaborated as a volunteer with the first PyPalooza hackathon. I joined a team and we won that hackathon. Within a month, I exited that team and I have now joined John Connors with his lesstax.us. And we are in the Tulsa, Oklahoma hackathon today. So within 1 month or 1.5 months, this is going to be my second PyPalooza hackathon. So these hackathons that are happening, I believe, are super powerful and they're galvanizing people. And I believe it would be helpful for us to make a stronger push at the start for how you can utilize the PyOS. And Sam has said he's going to do some work to prep PyOS so it's more easily usable. So yeah, all these things are feeding together, but these hackathons are powerful. So thank you everyone for doing it.
Oh, well done. Okay.
That's a really key part of the model, right? Is to have the OS so that we can go to things like the hackathons and say, here's the OS, so you don't have to do all of this pre-work. Just apply it to your industry. You know, you're the subject matter expert. Build something awesome, and you can do it in a day because we've done most of the background work for you.
Thanks, John, and thanks, Sam, and thanks, AZ. So let's hear from Cam, and then maybe I do want to hear from John in a bit because I know he's got some stuff planned. Cam?
Yeah, real quick. One of Cryptid's customers actually is using LLMs across their GitHub repo actually to automate that whole community and contribution management. So we're getting insights that have never been seen before in open source, and Cryptid is managing all of the provenance and verifiable authenticity out of that. And it is fundamental to remuneration. For those that don't know me, I'm ex-PayPal, longtime fintech guy. So I would tread carefully into proposing a Kwaai digital currency of any kind. There are a lot of other options out there. We don't want to get into the regulatory morass of AML and CFT and KYC, KYB, the whole alphabet soup of compliance in global financial regulatory markets. There are a lot of things that we can leverage from the payments community that we can bring into this without having to take on that overhead, because that's not our domain expertise.
Okay, understood.
But still reward the contributors without a doubt.
Yeah, award the contributors.
Yeah,
so the NF, but the token, the badge that says I did this part of the code, I think that's something.
The community is going to be really intrigued by what we're working on at Cryptid right now on the inputs to actually creating that, and it's unlike anything that has been conceived of before.
Fantastic. Okay, I want to drill down further into that in one of the work group meetings. A couple of things I'd like maybe John to talk about some events that we are planning in the long future. So I like having long lead times for events, and then also if you look on the marketing channel, you can see Emika and Nicole and a few others are trying to pull together a team for revamping the Kwaai website. And the website's a bit tired and old. It's a Google Sites thing that I basically dragged together in a weekend. It really needs to be brought up to date. Connect with Nicole and Emika and a few others whose names I've scrolled by here, who've actually got a Figma design already. And there really needs to be a work group set up for redoing the website. Okay, John, why don't you give us some minutes on events that are coming up?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much, Riza. Really a pleasure. So Matt, you did an amazing job last year connecting us with Scale, the Linux Expo, and we're looking this year at Summit 25, which next week I'll have a more polished primer about this opportunity. I didn't have a chance before the meeting today.
Sure.
But the idea is we're looking to do both a hackathon to build as well as a summit at the Scale event in mid-March. So the more details to come. We're looking for sponsorships. Really excited to be a part of a team that's got the long lead time so we can nail home sponsorships and really do this right and do it as well or better than last year. No, not that we're targeting you, Matt, but we'll be asking you to also speak on our behalf as well, because you did a great job emceeing last time.
Fantastic. Yeah. Okay, so there's a the summit in Q1 of next year. Fantastic. We're also going to be attending IIW, Internet Identity Week in at the Computer History Museum. That's the last week of October. We'll post the Eventbrite link. Doc, I think, has put the Eventbrite link out, but we'll repost that. And we should have a good Kwaai contingent there. We'll probably just sponsor the existing one. I don't think we've got enough time to pull together a separate meeting of our own. But we're going to be there in force, and we'll probably, it's an unconference, so stuff gets scheduled on the day that you arrive. Okay, so thanks so much. Gosh, first time we've used Zoom for this platform, and it was a really good turnout. And for those of you that couldn't make it, hey, you're going to watch the recording. Okay, thanks so much. Can someone post the? We're going to go. Yeah, great. Okay, we're back on crappy Google Meets for the after party. I apologize. And the way we might do it later on is we might set up a what's it, a breakout room.
A breakout room. Yep. Yeah. I saw that. Thanks, everyone.
A mental breakdown room, and we can go to that. Okay, fantastic. See you at the after party.
Thank you.
Thanks for managing all the mechanics here. Great job.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, everyone. All right. Bye.
This is what you get for being host. I have to wait for everyone now.
No, I know. And Hedgie's just joined. Hedgie, the meeting's just ended. You have to speak to Hedgie.
Oh, maybe Hedgie's was looking for the after party.
Oh, maybe. Okay. Hedgie, the meeting has just ended.
I'll find a way.
Okay. He's Hedgie. Hedgie, the meeting's just ended. It's 11 o'clock now.
I didn't get that in my update.
But okay, look, there's the after party. If you go and scroll on the, we're just moving over to the Idea Exchange meeting. So it's the one straight after. It's in the chat. So have a look at the last link in the chat. Click on that, and that's where we're moving. It's on Google Meets. It's not on. It's not in Zoom.
Oh,
gotcha.
I can kick out all the note takers, right?
You can, yeah.
All right. Well, I'll see you in the other meeting.
Okay. Thanks so much.
No, I don't want to report. So I'm talking to myself. Don't worry.